Hi everybody. Glad to be here today. Glad to be back talking with you. We've got three really good questions that we're going to go for today. And first question is, what is the difference between macronutrients and micronutrients? And I know that this can be confusing because you'll hear people throw these, both of these around a lot. And I feel like the easiest way to think of this is macros are going to be your basic needs, okay? So your protein, your fat, and your quality carbohydrates. So carbohydrates are broken into a couple different groups, but first let's just start with the difference between macros and micros. So macros are protein, fat, and carbohydrates. Okay, those are our basic needs. And then micros, I think of like, let's get real particular, micro, let's get like mini with this, like let's try to get like into the fine details. That's going to be all of our vitamins and minerals. So when I think of an example of eating a bunch of vegetables, right? I have to first digest those vegetables for it to actually be successful for me. So if my gut is not in a position where it's allowing me to digest vegetables well, then I may not receive all of the micronutrients from those vegetables. Things like vitamin C or calcium or magnesium, potassium, zinc, all of the different vitamins and minerals that are part of vegetables. But if I juice the vegetables, I'm eliminating the fiber, which there's benefit to that. So I don't necessarily want to just always juice my vegetables. But if I juice my vegetables, then what happens is, maybe if I want to make my smoothie, I make my smoothie with the green juice, so that instead of just drinking water or coconut milk or almond milk with my smoothie, if I drink it with my green juice, then I'm getting all those micronutrients that would come from having all those vegetables without having to digest all that fiber. So I'm just giving you that as an example of what the micronutrients are. So the micronutrients are going to be all of your vitamins and minerals that you need to take in. A lot of us are supplementing with those micronutrients, and that would be, by, like, for myself personally, I take vitamin C, I take vitamin D, I take an electrolyte, which is a balance between calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium. And then I also take NAC, I take zinc. On a daily basis, I probably, like 3 different times a day, I'm probably taking, I would say, upwards to 25 pills a day, which is just supplements. And that's to make sure that I get all those micronutrients in. Now, part of the reason why I do that is because of the issues that I've had from a digestive perspective. Like for years, because of the Hashimoto's, I had leaky gut. Now I feel like we've really done a great job of helping the leaky gut. I've had to go through SIBO treatment. I've had to go through treatment for Candida. So there's I've had a lot of struggles with digesting my food. So it's not always that easy to just say, eat a whole bunch of vegetables. I mean, I might eat 1 cup of broccoli and look like I swallowed a beach ball from 1 cup of broccoli. Now I take enzymes, I do a lot of different things now that helps me to better digest, but it isn't as easy for everyone to just say, eat more vegetables. So to get all those micronutrients in, I do have to supplement with, all the different supplements that I mentioned, and I actually take a lot more than that. That's just a snapshot of what I take. Okay, now when we go back to the macronutrients, being your protein sources would be, meat sources, chicken, turkey, venison, bison, grass-fed beef, eggs. That's one example of protein sources. Now, other protein sources could, of course, be protein powder, but then, there would be vegetarian protein sources like beans, peas, grains, not as equipping as the meat sources, because you're going to take on a high carbohydrate load to be able to take in those types of proteins. So the body's going to have to be able to manage that high carbohydrate amount as you take in those protein sources. So you may be having a little bit of an increase in blood sugar. And if metabolically you're not that terribly efficient, it may not be productive for you to have cups of beans and cups of quinoa and cups of rice and then all these vegetables throughout the day. If metabolically you have a tendency to have higher blood sugar, or you have a tendency to have more blood sugar dumps, that may not be the best case scenario for you. So going with a plant-based protein source may not be the best case scenario for you. So that's one of our macronutrients. And then fat, being olive oil, avocados, olives, pumpkin seeds, nuts, any type of coconut oil, coconut milk, almond flour, chia seeds, flax seeds. These are oils, nuts, seeds, things like avocado. These are our fat sources. Now, fat is very important for stabilizing blood sugar and extending our energy. Fat's also very important for our brain. I mean, it's very important that we continue to eat fat, and a lot of the damaging impacts of years and years and years worth of people going on too low a fat diet is very noticeable now. There are a lot of people with emotional issues. There are a lot of people with psychological issues, imbalances in the brain, anxiety, depression, attention deficit issues. A lack of fat can produce a lot of that. A lack of fat and then an increase of carbohydrates can increase cholesterol or cause, ultimately fatty liver disease. So those are our fat sources. Very important that we continue to get our fat sources in. You also want to think of fat as like lubrication for our body. So it's like a way of lubricating the body. It's going to lubricate our joints. It's going to lubricate our intestines. Like there's a lot of important factors to bringing fat in, and you want to make sure that you have it on a regular basis. Quality fats like olive oil are actually anti-inflammatory, so they work towards reducing inflammation in the body. Now, finally, carbohydrates, probably our favorite macronutrient, right? Now, we always think of carbohydrates as bread, cereal, crackers, pasta, that type of thing. That's what we think of when we think of carbohydrates. But we can consume well over 100 carbohydrates a day if we are eating plenty of vegetables. So if at each meal we are consuming 3 cups worth of vegetables, 4 cups worth of vegetables, we could easily be at 100 carbs a day just from consuming our vegetables. Now, that's consuming non-starchy vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, green beans, asparagus, zucchini, yellow squash, mushrooms, cabbage, different types of greens, cucumber. Those are all slow to convert to sugar vegetables and full of great fiber. Now, we can also move into starchy vegetables, and those starchy vegetables would be things like potatoes, sweet potatoes, butternut squash, acorn squash, beets, parsnips. Those are all going to convert to sugar faster, some of them faster than others. Obviously, a sweet potato doesn't convert as fast as a white potato. A white potato converts as quickly as 4 teaspoons of table sugar, where a sweet potato is going to be slower to convert to sugar. Definitely faster than broccoli, but slower than a white potato. All of those carbohydrate sources that I just mentioned, just those starchy ones, not the fibrous vegetables, those are going to build what's called glycogen. And glycogen is the energy source that the muscle tissue uses. And if we are exercising, we are going to grab that glycogen and we're going to use it as energy. And the muscle is going to really appreciate the fact that you gave it to them. Now, if we build glycogen, but we don't do anything to use that glycogen, we don't lose that glycogen. And I've talked about this before, but that's going to store as fat. It can create fatty liver disease. and it will raise your cholesterol, but it'll also dump as body fat. So we want to be careful. If we're going to build glycogen, we need to use the glycogen. If we're exercising, I currently right now exercise twice a day, 7 days a week. And I exercise 3 hours a day almost. You know, my morning workout is usually going to be, or midday workout is going to be about an hour and a half. My second workout is going to be about 45 minutes, but I have some days where that first workout is 2 hours long. It's great for me to have glycogen building carbohydrates. I have sweet potato twice a day, and I have butternut squash once a day. Great, I utilize it. I'm very active. That's not a problem. But if you are not very active and you're having those starches regularly, your body is going to let you know it, because you will be gaining body fat. I mean, you will raise your cholesterol. Your blood sugar might be a little bit higher than what it should be. So something very important to recognize. So other carbohydrate sources would be grains, rice, pastas, cereals, crackers. Bad choices of carbohydrate sources, or not bad, but maybe not your daily choices, would be cookies and cakes and things like that, desserts. And then fruit. Fruit would be considered a carbohydrate. So I'm going to take this opportunity to now move to our next question, which is, what is fructose and how much is too much of it? I think it's very important to understand what fructose is. Fructose is the sugar that is in fruit. Fructose is the only sugar that we take in that the liver bears all the brunt of. Okay, so too much fructose impacts the liver, and too much fructose impacts your cholesterol. So it is important that you pay attention to the amount of fructose that you're taking in. I once had a client that was in decent shape, but you could tell that he needed to maybe lose 10 pounds. You know, I mean, I felt like he was in very good shape, but needed to lose about 10 pounds. But he had high cholesterol. And so you look at him from the outside and you think he's super healthy, but on the inside, not so healthy. And he had went on a diet that he felt like would be adequate for him for being able to lower his cholesterol. And his cholesterol got worse. And that was because he was adding fruit 4 to 5 times a day, because he just felt like that would be better than adding bread, or that would be better than adding chips or crackers, which ultimately I think was a good progression, because his cholesterol would have continued to go up if he was eating chips and crackers and bread and all these things that he was eating. But the problem is he was eating so much fructose that was increasing the cholesterol as well. So the typical person, when it comes to fructose, should consume, if they're trying to lose weight or lower cholesterol or lower blood sugar, between 15 and 20 grams of fructose in a day, okay? Now, if you don't need to lose weight, if you don't need to lower your cholesterol, you could potentially go up to 25 grams of fructose in a day and probably be just fine, okay? Now, let me bank out different levels of fruit for you, just to help you to understand. Low fructose fruits, which would mean between 3 to 5 grams per 1 cup, would be strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, and raspberries, the lowest fructose fruits that you can have, okay? Now, the highest fructose fruits that you can have, that would be 15 grams of fructose or higher. Now, that could be almost your daily allotment in one serving, would be apples, oranges, grapes, bananas, figs, and dates. Now, I'm going to put like a little bit of a disclaimer on apples. The reason why apples would be included is because apples are now the size of softballs, okay? So if you get an apple that is the size of a baseball instead of the size of a softball, then you'll be around 7 to 8 grams of fructose, so nowhere near as bad. So that's going to be those apples that come in the bag instead of the apples that you buy individually that are this big. Or if you buy a big apple and you cut it in half and you give half of it to your husband or half of it to your kids and then half of it for you, then that will work out just fine as well. Okay, all of your other fruits are going to kind of land right down the middle there. So they're going to be, you know, some of them may be 10 grams of fructose. Some of them might be 7 grams of fructose. You can Google, you know, a fructose chart to kind of learn, but I don't think it needs to be anything that you need to obsess on. The amount of fruit that you should have in a day. Typically, when I work with a client, I recommend that they have 1.5 to 2 cups of fruit a day. I try to keep them low fructose. So we typically stick with berries for the first 30 days. Then we eventually bring other fruits in. But when we bring those other fruits in, I always ask them to pay attention to how they feel. Because if they feel super hungry after suddenly bringing pineapple in or suddenly bringing watermelon in, then that means that there really is not quite enough fiber, maybe more sugar, maybe more water, so it's converting to sugar faster, and maybe their system would do better with those berries. Or if you're going to bring pineapple or you're going to bring watermelon in, maybe you have a bowl of berries, but you have a couple pieces of pineapple, a couple pieces of watermelon, so the seeds from the berries help to slow down the absorption of the sugar in those other fruits. Okay, so that's a lot to know about fructose, but just understand that honey is fructose. So a tablespoon of honey is going to be almost 15 grams of fructose. So if you're using honey in your tea, honey on your food, you're adding fructose. So if you have fruit for breakfast, honey in your tea, you could potentially, if you're having a banana for breakfast and a tablespoon of honey on your breakfast, you could potentially be having 30 grams of fructose just with breakfast. And then if you have an orange at lunch, now we're at 45 grams of fructose. And if you have a cup of grapes in the middle of the afternoon, now we're at 60 grams of fructose. So you can see how you can gain weight on even healthy food. And then you can also see how your cholesterol could go up on even healthy food. I'm not demonizing fruit. Don't need anybody to leave me any of those messages. I think it's a great food for you, and I certainly recommend that my clients have fruit. Now, there's certainly, people that maybe don't digest it as well. Maybe they're dealing with SIBO, maybe they're dealing with candida, and maybe we're working them out of like sugars at the moment because we're trying to make it to where the body is not growing more bacteria or growing more yeast. So we may take a little bit of a short break from fruit, but certainly feel like fruit is a very healthy food. I do not ever recommend, and this is my personal opinion, but I do not ever recommend juicing fruit. I don't think it's a good idea. I think you should always have fruit with the fiber. So I definitely don't recommend juicing fruit. A lemon, I think adding a lemon to your vegetable juice is fine, but I don't personally suggest it. Carrots, I think, will sweeten up your fruit a little bit. A beet will be good for your juice a little bit. Along with some lemon, but you're not really drinking a green juice for taste. You're drinking a green juice because it's powerful, because of what it's going to do for your body. So I hope that helps you with fructose. Now, talking a little bit about squatting and why your knees could hurt from squatting. The first thing is that if you are squatting and your knees are going over your toes, then all of the weight is being put on the joint and not the muscle. So if you're lifting your heels or if your knees are going over your toes when you're squatting, you're putting all of the pressure on the knees and you're not putting it into the muscle, the glute and the quad like you should be, okay? So you need someone to situate you. We do a free personal fitness assessment here, and the reason we do that is because we're identifying a person's imbalances. Where are they imbalanced? How do we help them to get more structurally sound? Maybe they shouldn't be air squatting yet. Maybe they need to be squatting to a bench because they just really need to start loosening up certain parts of their body. Maybe their hips are too tight. The other thing we want to consider is how tight are your quads, how tight is your inner thigh, and how tight is your IT band. Okay, if you lay on a foam roller and your eyes are watering while you're doing all of this fascia work up here by your kneecap, not on your kneecap, but by your kneecap, if you're doing that, and again, your eyes are watering, then that's a big part of why your knee is hurting. You're too bound up and it's pulling on the knee. You need to loosen up. You need to stretch the quad. You need to stretch the inner thigh. You need to stretch the IT band and probably the piriformis up here. You need to foam roll all of this very regularly. You may need a massage. We like to use this stick, and we take the stick and go all around. We like to use the massage gun and go all through the massage gun with our clients. So very important that you're unlocking the fascia, that you're stretching, and that you're making sure that you're just loosening up that soft tissue through massage, through foam rolling, through the massage gun. That all of those things very important for your knees if you're feeling that knee pain, especially if you're feeling a knee pain in both knees. So I hope that this helps you. For more information on what we do at Integrity Training Systems for a 6-month nutrition program with myself, or for a free personal fitness assessment with any of our personal trainers, take a look at integritytrainingsystems.com or give us a call at 636-299-2208. Thank you so much for listening, and God bless you.